What is up, guys? It is Uncle Bob, and welcome to the channel. Welcome back, guys. We are here for an auxiliary video because after playing the last 4 Zelda games, I have ranked them against one another as I have played them. And, there's a lot of years that have gone in between me playing them, but my thoughts, I feel like, are pretty solidified on what I'm going to be looking for in Zelda games, probably for the rest of my life. Maybe in the future, some of these might tweak a little bit, but I can definitely rearrange these as time goes on. I am not at all, like even where I have these four. These don't have to stay here. They can always be switched around. Now, because these are reviews about how much I like the games, we're not grading what's an objectively better written story or any of that. Everything on this list is just pure vibes. Pure whatever rustles my jimmies the most. At least on these last playthroughs. So, with some of these, nostalgia might either work in its favor or against its favor. But so far, here's the list that we've accumulated over the last few years. For some people, obviously the 1, 2, 3, 4 is their placement, and the next number next to it, for some reason, is the entry in the series they are. Now, the one that's probably going to make people gasp the most is A Link to the Past. That being near the bottom. Now, it's only 4 games, but that's still pretty low for a lot of people. And I'm not going to lie, A Link to the Past at one point was my favorite. That was my favorite Zelda game when I was growing up. But now that I'm older, an issue, and I talked about this at many points while even playing Ocarina of Time, a big issue is that when I played A Link to the Past, I only died one time. And I died to a random Hinox right as I entered into the Dark World, because I just straight up forgot how much health they took out. And I'm not going to lie, I was just not paying the game its the most mind that I could have. But needless to say, it is for me a very easy game. And I still love it. But that's one game that, at least the very first 3 Zelda games, anytime I complete those 3 Zelda games, I am basically always 100%ing them. Maybe not 100%, but at very least, I'm getting all of the pieces of hearts, all of the health upgrades and everything in those 3 games. Well, I guess Zelda 2, health and magic. Let's be fair, health and magic. So, when it comes to A Link to the Past, I'm used to exploring most of its world. So that game has just gotten too easy. Now, you see I have The Adventure of Link, the black sheep side-scrolling entry into the series, on top. And when I was younger, the battle between Zelda 2 and Zelda 1, I always had Zelda 2 on top. That has been the same for me since I have memories. I've always preferred Zelda 2 to Zelda 1. Zelda 1, I've just never particularly super liked compared to the other Zelda games. I'm not going to lie and pretend I don't love the game. I love it. I've beaten that game at least a dozen times. Like, you don't beat a game a dozen times that you don't like. But overall, I've never been a fan of open world games. And even, at its roots, it's still not my thing. Still love it, just not my thing. And then A Link to the Past, like I said, just a little too easy. A little too familiar. It was still fun. I still loved it. I still loved the music, the world, everything. But because of how easy it is, the accomplishment in the game was robbed from me a little. Now, putting Link's Awakening underneath The Adventure of Link, that one can be kind of crazy. Because, I would argue that Link's Awakening is not just a better game, but a better Zelda game than The Adventure of Link. But for me, The Adventure of Link is pure reward. It's just, when I played it, I was still having... Now, again, for me, who's beaten that game multiple times, that game's going to be easier to me than it's going to be to most people out there. So I understand that. But with that game, there was still just so much feeling of accomplishment with just every boss fight, every level, everything just felt good. Link's Awakening, though, I prize for its story above all else. I mean, it's a Zelda game where I could argue that Link is the bad guy. Because as far as the game is aware, you're in the dream world. You're the invader. You're the one trying to wake up the Windfish and basically destroy this entire world. Yeah, it's a dream world and it doesn't technically exist, but I'm assuming Link still feels pain within this Windfish's dream. So the pain that everything feels is real enough. So yeah, it's a Zelda game where Link is basically the bad guy. And I'm not going to lie, just as a twist on the story, I love that. I think that's awesome. And I think that the game also has really good, especially for the early Zelda games, really good puzzles, excellent music. I love everything about it. The only thing that The Adventure of Link has more for me is a bit more nostalgia, because one of my earliest memories of life was of watching my family playing, I don't remember which of my grandparents it was, but I remember sitting on our living room couch watching them play The Adventure of Link. And I remember sitting on the couch taking apple slices and dunking them in caramel and eating them. That's one of my oldest memories I ever have from when I was like 3 years old. Zelda 2 is just personally baked into me in a way that no other game is. And even it hasn't always been at the top of my list. And I'm not going to lie, I don't think it's going to remain at the top of my list. But for now it has. And for me, those are the reasons. The Adventure of Link is, for me, pure gameplay bliss. And especially because I have a lot of 2D side-scrolling experience with growing up beating most of the Mega Mans, most of the Mega Man X's. I've beaten Contra and Super Contra, both without a game over and no extra life cheats. I have a lot of 2D side-scrolling pedigree. So The Adventure of Link doesn't have a hold on me the way that it does other people, especially today. I think Zelda 2 was way more praised back in the day when there was plenty of side-scrolling action games. So it's not like it was a departure for Zelda, but it wasn't a departure for gaming as much. So, yeah. But now we have Ocarina of Time. That's the star of this show. Now that we're, getting close to 10 minutes into this. Now we got the new game. And drum roll, please. For me personally, after playing it, because with Ocarina of Time, it's a mixture of things. Because like I said, the first 3 Zelda games, every time I play them, I get everything. With Ocarina of Time, that's the Zelda game where that starts becoming too much for me to bother with, to get everything. No thanks. I've done it before, but overall, I'm good. I don't need to do that. I'm way past that need to completionist shit. It does not hold on me. If there's a game where completing it is very almost checkbox oriented, tasks in some of the old Assassin's Creed games, or Doom Eternal, where it's little accomplishment things, not achievements. I don't achievement hunt, but within missions, I can completion it that way, when it's just a nice, easy checkbox way that makes my dopamine go, check, 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 check. Just check them all off. I love it. But, yeah, when I play Ocarina of Time, that starts the game where I don't get everything. And I don't ever for the rest of the franchise. But Ocarina of Time, because it came out when I was 8, that was a very important game, because 2 or 3 weeks before this game came out, or after this game came out, my grandfather passed away. The grandfather whom, is my inspiration for this whole channel and why I play games to begin with. Just sitting next to him on his bed, watching him play old school video games. Well, at the time they were current video games, let's be fair. But watching him play those era of games, it just brought so much to me. And Ocarina of Time was the very last game that he really, really got before he passed away. And, you know, it felt like so much longer when I was a kid, but the fact that it was only like 2 or 3 weeks is just, to me, it's just wild. It just puts in perspective, like, lengths of time that, you know, for me, you know, me and my grandfather had months with that game before he passed, but in reality, it was only a few weeks. He was buried with this game in his, like, because my grandfather did not want to be buried in the suit. My grandfather never wore suits. He wanted his flannel, his khakis, his hat. That's what he wanted to be buried in, which is very on brand for my grandfather. And because he had the pocket in the chest, when they buried him, they put in his gold cartridge of Ocarina of Time and buried him with it. And, like, that's just what kind of legend that this game holds for, like, me personally. So, like, it hits a lot of the nostalgia notes. But also, because of that, I had beaten this game so much that I'd beaten this game so much that it was, for the most part, as far as the actual game itself is concerned, just was way too familiar. You know, I would most times beat Ocarina of Time collecting 0 heart pieces. I'd get 10 gold Skulltulas so I could get the adult wallet, and that was it. And I would basically have, like, the exact ones planned out that I would get. I would get the 3 that are in the Deku Tree. There's 1 in a tree in the king's, in the castle. There's 1 that you get, because that one was in a tree. There's another one you can get at the farm. There's another one that you can get in, there's like 3 that you can get in Kakariko Village. Yeah, I don't even remember them all anymore. That was 8. I can remember where I would basically get the minimal amount of shit that I would ever need in that game. I would get maybe 2 bottles. I've beaten the game with 1 bottle, but it required too much back and forth with trying to melt things with blue fire, so I just found that 2 hearts was more optimal. But that game had a lot of the same problems to me as A Link to the Past when I played it, and now here when I beat it. And it still had those problems. I mean, I did not die playing this game once. Came close a couple of times. Dark Link and Bongo Bongo, and not really Ganondorf, but Ganondorf kind of slightly started to make me crunch my eyes a little. There were a couple moments where I started to be like, oh, could it happen? But overall, didn't die, not once. And I was playing on a touch screen. You know, I wasn't even playing with a controller. If I was playing with an N64 controller, this game would have stood no chance. The only times I would be getting hit would be because when I'm trying to get style points and being extra, which even happened quite a few times in this game too. You know, there were quite a few times that enemies made more sport for me than they ever have, all because I'm playing on a touchpad, or I'm trying to, like, backflip, side jump, jump strike. I'm just trying to be a little extra with it. And, you know, on a remote, I got the timing down. But on this, it was a little harder. But I enjoyed that. But, you know, the game was still overall too easy. And that hurts this game a lot for me. Now, I did enjoy actually playing through the game, though. Actually exploring the world, getting heart pieces, going to the fishing hole, playing the fishing mini game. I managed to find 60 of the gold Skulltulas, you know, a bit more than half. enough to at least get the piece of heart from it, because you get that at 50. And I wasn't even like super intensely looking for them. I was just, I would hear one, explore around, try to find it. That was it. That's all I ever did. But that was enough. And, getting to talk to the NPCs again, getting to like actually, because, same thing. I would go through the entire game and basically never speak to any NPCs, because I knew where to go. I knew where to go, what to do. If there was an NPC that was required to talk to, obviously talk to them. But if you didn't need to, I never did. Fuck it. Why would I? So it was a lot of fun getting to explore the world again in a way that I haven't done in probably more than 20 years. It's been more than, because 20 years ago I was 16. At 16, I was definitely already on the track to beating this game whenever I wanted, however I wanted at that age. Easy. So I'm having to go like 26 years back to when I'm like 10 years old, playing this game and still exploring around and enjoying the world and getting lost in it. So officially, I'm going to put Ocarina of Time underneath Link's Awakening, but above A Link to the Past. And for me, that's actually noteworthy, because when I was younger, the idea of putting Ocarina of Time over A Link to the Past, get out of here, stupid squeater. When I was a kid, that would have been unheard of when I was a kid, to have Ocarina of Time over A Link to the Past. But A Link to the Past is too familiar. And that familiarity, game-wise, hurts for me for Ocarina of Time. And, it's funny because other than, now granted, I don't think I'm going to die either. But when I used to play Majora's Mask growing up the same way, you get way less hearts in that game if you're not collecting heart pieces. So growing up, I found that game to be a lot more challenging in that regard. So I died a few more times, especially with fairies. But overall, I would say for me, the biggest issue I have when it comes to the big 3D Zeldas, which would be Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. Those 4 ones especially, I find are just way too easy of games. Their difficulty will be in puzzles and figuring out where to go and what to do and how to approach things. That's where the difficulty in those games comes in. But when the 2D Zelda games can be as difficult as they are, especially when sometimes they're almost like little bullet hells where there's just so much going on and you got to dodge and everything. It is just a game that is so much easier than all of the other games in the series. It is not anywhere near as difficult as any of those other 2D Zelda games. And that ease, like, the game is already easy, on top of me already being way too good at it. So it prevents it from climbing to me any higher than where it is. Because Link's Awakening and The Adventure of Link are both way harder, way more rewarding. As much as I do enjoy Ocarina of Time's more like cinematic nature, being the first Zelda 3D game, I still don't think the story is as good as 4, with, like I was saying, with the prospect of Link kind of being the bad guy of that game. I think that interesting twist on the story, and just like as you get closer to the goal, you see like writings from, like, I don't know if it's from the monsters or something, but it's basically like warning you, like, you're going to destroy our world. We can't let you go any further. Like, there's the way that it frames it from the monsters as desperate is just, it's so interesting. that for me, as far as playing through the story, it's a better story than Ocarina of Time. Now, obviously, I'm not going to discount Ocarina of Time's importance in gaming history, obviously. And again, I wouldn't even argue, I definitely would argue that Ocarina of Time is both a better game and a better Zelda game than, at very least, The Adventure of Link. For sure. That's not even debatable. It's both better as a game and a Zelda game. I'm not even going to lie. But just because of the history that I have with these games, if I was playing these games brand new, I'd probably have a much different view of them as well. There's a few Zeldas that when I eventually get to them will be more new experiences. Oracle of Ages will be the first Zelda game that I play that I haven't beaten. I got close to the end, but I never fully beat it. I got close, but I never fully beat it. And then Minish Cap, I've only ever beaten 2 out of the 5 dungeons of that game. So I haven't gotten very far in that. Spirit Tracks, I've only beaten, I think, the first dungeon. I think I got close to the second or within the second, but I don't think I ever beat that one. Link Between Worlds, I never beat. And I've never beaten Tears of the Kingdom. I've never even played it. Or, there's a Zelda game before it. Triforce Heroes, never beat that one. I know, like, Four Swords Adventure, that's like a stage-based Zelda game, but still, I haven't beaten that one. And then I haven't obviously played the newest Zelda one either, the actual Zelda game, Echoes of Wisdom. So, out of like 18 or 19 games, there's still, a couple that are going to be like brand spanking fresh. And the other ones are like, I've played some of them, but I need to finish them up. But yeah, just my familiarity with the series is just pretty large in general. I know there's people who've played all of them and beaten all of them. Even people who have less experience time-wise with the series. Especially when you see all these people who do things for like retrospectives and stuff. A lot of these guys have probably beaten all of the Zelda games, in less time than it took me to do it. But my experience with the series is just long-standing. And I feel pretty comfortable in this ranking for now. Like I said, when I was younger, I would have viewed it differently. But at this point, familiarity matters. Both nostalgia and, otherwise. I watched that same grandfather play A Link to the Past a lot growing up. And if that game wouldn't have been so easy either, I would have had it over Ocarina of Time. I think Ocarina of Time I had a little bit more fun with it, only because I wasn't as familiar with the NPCs and, collecting the Skulltulas and the heart pieces. Because I took more joy out of the world, that boosted it up for me a little bit. But, that's why these are like personal rankings based on just what I liked at that given time. There's not really a set rhyme or reason. I'm not basing it on any like real reviewers' scores. This is just how I felt about the games as I played them. And, I'll have to relitigate some of this as time goes on because, sometime in less than a year, I will probably be playing Majora's Mask. And heads up, at least last time I played it, that was and has been since at least I was 15 or 16, because A Link to the Past was always my favorite. And Majora's Mask was close. And Wind Waker kind of butted out Majora's Mask, and then as I got older, Majora's Mask and Wind Waker hit switched. Because my top 3 when I was younger was A Link to the Past, Majora's Mask, and what did I just say? And then Wind Waker. For the main ones that came out when I was by the time I was 12. Those were my 3 favorites. And then I think Ocarina of Time was like right there after it. But yeah, now this is the way that I rank it. You know, The Adventure of Link was still the most fun and the most rewarding Zelda game I've played since going back and revisiting them again as a 30-year-old. And that's no shade on any of the other games. It's just how they tickle the jimmies. You know, I am fully expecting, not gonna lie, because I only played Majora's Mask still like 9 years ago, but still like all of my memories of it. And, you know, in the time I've seen, you know, people playing through it blind. So like I see other people playing it and I get reminded of a lot of the things in the game. I'm not going to lie. I'm fully expecting Adventure of Link to start taking a boot further and further down that list. Granted, I mean, so does that make other games, but yeah, these early ones they mean a lot to me personally. So there's areas where I know nostalgia is clouding it, and other ways that I think, you know, sometimes that nostalgia has turned it into, you know, gross familiarity, which we've talked about plenty. But yeah, guys, if you found this, stick around because I got all the old games in the world to play. So by the time anybody sees this, my playthrough of Wario Land 3 will have started. So that'll be the next adventure I take. So come and join me. Till then, y'all. Peace.